Welcome back to the Wolf of Queen Street podcast. Today on the show, Edd Rivera, a stand-up comedian and content creator from Mexico, now pretty much living or trying to make it through in New Zealand, doing the circuit here with your content, your stand-up comedy, breaking down walls, and just one of the funniest fucking dudes I've seen on content in the last couple of months. And Ed, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I love that you said breaking walls and not jumping them.
Yeah. I had some jokes. I was talking to the wife a couple of hours ago about bringing you on the show, and I was like, "Oh, I listened through some of your content and some of your stand up, and dude, I've got a really weird sense of humor, but I've also got to understand that some shit I say might not work on social media these days." And I was going to drop that line in, and I know you've spoken about this before in your stand up, and I was going to go, "Shit, dude, at Mexico, New Zealand, it's a far fucking swim, bro."
Yeah.
Right? And she's like, "No, you can't fucking say that."
That's literally one of my jokes, man.
Yeah, and I was like, "No, he said it on his show, so I'm sure I can use that." Ed. But anyway, Ed, talk me through, Mexico, New Zealand, stand-up comedy. Who are you, and how'd you get into this world, man?
It's actually a really funny story, man. Obviously, all my life I lived in Mexico, so until I was 25, something like that. I had a decent job in Mexico. I used to be a professor at the University of Guadalajara, and got tired of what was happening in Mexico. And I said, you know what? I need to get out of this place. And I started looking for countries. And I remember I saw Australia, and I said, "Fuck, that's too far." And then I said, "Can you swear? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Can you swear?"
right.
Sometimes I drop the F-bomb.
No, knock yourself out, man.
You can bleep it. Anyway, I remember I saw Australia and I said, "Nah, that's too far. I'll never go down there." And then I don't know why my brain saw New Zealand, and my brain clicked into like, "Oh, that's like in Europe." And I was like, "Okay, I'll see," because Mexicans, sadly, as you being South African, could understand that we have a bad reputation into getting into countries. So there's a lot of limitations for Mexicans to go to other countries. And I remember at first I tried Ireland. Ireland said no. And then I said, you know what, I'm just going to go New Zealand, see if I can try there. To that point, I was still thinking I was going to Europe. So I saw that there was a working holiday program. And I said, all right, well, I'll see if I can get it. If I get the visa, I'll start investigating. And got the visa. And I remember I was bragging to one of my friends. I was telling him, like, "Oh, man, I cannot wait. I'm a big Beatles fan."
Yeah.
So I was telling him that I was going to go to London and visit like Abbey Road and blah, blah. And he left me he allowed me to talk for like 20 minutes nonstop of how amazing New Zealand in Europe is. And then he cracked up and he was laughing. And he was like, "You seriously believe that New Zealand is over there, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's like," he asked me, "So where is it?"
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those like
little countries,
countries like on top, right? Like, and he's like, like literally that's the last country in the whole world. And I'm like, "No, it's not." And it's like, "You're literally next to Antarctica." Yeah. And I'm like, "No, it's not." And it's like, "Yeah, people that wants to go to Antarctica has to go to New Zealand
first,
and then they go to Antarctica." And I'm like, "No." I opened my Google Maps and shed myself for an hour. And I was just like, "Oh, damn." And he said, "What are you going to do now?" And I was like, "Well, I already got the visa, might as well give it a try." Funny thing is that to get here was a hassle, bro. Because I didn't have an American visa to go through the States. That's the only way for Mexicans to come through. So because I didn't have one, I had to go all the way around. So for me I went from Guadalajara, which is my hometown, Guadalajara to Mexico City, Peru, Chile, Argentina, New Zealand.
So you're just fucking ping-ponging. You just like ping-ponging in South America.
I was cargo, bro. I was at that point, I was just cargo, bro. Just like, put me one of the containers.
Just give me a feed and some water, bro, and let me ping-pong for a while.
Yeah, man. I wouldn't be the first Mexican that does that, right through a country, through a container. So yeah, I managed to get here, and it was a shock, bro. It was a cultural shock, to me. First of all, I thought everybody spoke spoke English, and then turns out no one speaks English here. It's a weird English.
Yeah,
it's a weird English. I remember the first time. It's actually one of my jokes that I say on my show, that my boss told me "sweet ass," and I was just like, well, I want residency, but not this way. And it was a whole experience. But the main reason that made me stay for this long is the Polynesian culture, man.
Yep.
That was a shock to me, because I remember, and I think I've said this story a couple times. I was like 6 months in New Zealand, and I was feeling like really sad, and I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, bit of homesick. And
yeah. And at the time, my girlfriend, now my wife, she was in Mexico. My daughter was in Mexico, so I was just like, oh man, I feel like this is not the country. I'm just gonna save money, go back to my country, and that's it, And I worked in construction at the time. One of the supervisors, was a old Maori guy, looked at me and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend?" And I'm like, "Oh, nothing." I was like, "Come to my place, we'll have a beer." And I was like, "Where do you stay?" And I was like, Manukau, Mangere. And I was like, I don't know, because I stayed in the city.
Yeah.
So I was just like, anyway, long story short, I ended up going, and he was married to a Samoan lady. And the first thing that happened, as soon as they opened the door when I arrived, the lady just gave me a hug and a kiss, and she's like, "Come in." My husband is at the back. I sat down, we had a beer, and then he's like, "We're gonna have dinner." We had dinner. It was just like really nice. They were like, "Oh, he's this guy from Mexico, wow!" And the whole stereotype, like, "Oh, Vatos Locos," and this and that, and talking about the Blood In, Blood Out movie in Los Angeles and blah blah. And then at the end, they gave me like a pack of Tupperware with food. So it made me feel like I was at home.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, wow, this is exactly like in Mexico. It felt like that. And they said, you know what, I'm gonna stay here. And the comedy thing happened because when I was a professor, we used to have like the principal or a coordinator would come into our classes and observe, write notes, and then at the end give us feedback on how we were teaching.
Yep.
This was at the university level, so classes tend to be like really serious. To me, I've never been serious. I cannot. It doesn't work for me. My wife hates that because I'm all the time joking, even in serious situations. So. I remember finishing my class, and the coordinator sat down with me, and he said, "Amazing class. The students were very engaged. I like how you developed the whole thing. But can I just give you a piece of advice?" And I was just like, "Yeah, sure. What is it?" "It's not a stand-up show."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What?" And it's like, "You're joking too much. Like, some students might either not respect you because you're just being the silly, funny guy."
Yeah.
And I was young at this. I was really lucky to be a young professor. So he was like a little bit concerned that because of the age, not being not that old, they won't respect me. But that is not stand-up word, kind of like stuck in my head.
Yeah.
I'm like,
dropped the seed.
And in Mexico at the time, comedy used to be just people telling jokes.
Yeah.
It wasn't the whole what stand-up is and around the world, like a guy telling a story about their life and all that stuff. In Mexico, comedy used to be knock-knock jokes, a horse enters to a bar, blah, blah, that kind of jokes,
Sort of dad jokes these days.
Yeah. So to me, never occurred stand-up. And I was walking through Queen Street, and I saw there's this comedy bar called The Classic right on Queen Street. And I saw a sign that said open mic signed up.
Yep.
And I was just like, okay. I'll give it a try. If I fail, nobody knows me here.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who I am. I don't have any friends.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get on stage and, do whatever I can do. And at the time, obviously, me learning the language and learning how to speak English and everything, I had to see all the great ones. And obviously, being Mexican, I had to see like George Lopez, Paul Rodriguez, all the amazing comedians, Gabriel Iglesias, all of the guys. So I had an idea of what stand-up had to be, but I wasn't sure what I could talk about. Like I was like, I don't want to sound the same
Mm-hmm.
same Mexican comedian jokes, you know, because everybody knows those jokes, so it was pretty obvious. But then I said, but wait a minute, there's not many Mexicans here, so no one's gonna know those jokes probably. So I don't know, like between while I was assembling my 6 minutes, because they only give you 6 minutes for the open mic, I said, fuck it, let's just go with it. I had a few jokes. I did a few Trump jokes because Trump was in power at the time. So I said, you know what, I'm just gonna go with it and try to like see if it works. And if it not, then whatever, you know. I got on stage and oh man, it was a rush. We had a full night. It was probably like, I don't know how many people can fit in the classic. I think it was like 80 people. It was like packed, so like really packed night. And I got on stage. All the comedians were doing a really good job. Yeah. But I wasn't even listening to them. I was just like so nervous, concentrated on my stuff that I wasn't listening to what kind of jokes were being said. So I didn't pay attention at all of how to do it. And as soon as I heard my name is Edd Rivera, blah, 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 and I come down the stairs, I said, my name is Edd Rivera, and I'm from Mexico. And when I said Mexico, a lot of people were like, woo! They're just like, yeah. And the typical, arriba! You know, like that kind of stuff. And everybody got quiet, and I said, I'm legally here. As soon as I said that, people lost it. They were like, holy shit. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay, whoa, okay. So I can talk about this. You know, nobody's going to say it. And then the next joke that I had is like, obviously, you're probably guessing what's a Mexican doing in New Zealand. And it's true. I couldn't jump the border. And I obviously don't fit through the tunnels. A friend of mine told me, if I'm coming to New Zealand, to adapt to the people that lives here. And if you look at me, I'm very well adapted. So everybody started like, I started joking out loud how me being Mexican started transforming into a Samoan man. And obviously making it cheeky and blah, blah. And then I got into the Trump jokes and everybody was like, it was nonstop laughing. Yeah. And I got addicted. I was just like, wow.
Just performing, right?
Wow. Because I did my jokes when I was a teacher, and I would get the occasional laughs from the students and everything, but never a consistent laughing and clapping. And I was just like, God, this is...
People don't understand. Like, I've been on stage and I've done big keynotes. You know, you've performed... guy behind the camera as from your pro wrestling and that stuff. People don't understand that feeling, whether it's 10, 20 or 100, 200, but it's people that are that level and that cheer just for you and what you've done at that moment. It's a different feeling you can't explain. You stand there and you go, holy shit. And it's like you say, it's such a rush, right? And it's like, and then you're like, how do I get it? How do I get it again? How do I get it again? Right?
The tricky part of comedy is that sadly it's been transforming itself the past few years. There's some things that you cannot say anymore. There's some things that you can joke about.
Matt Rife doesn't give a fuck.
Exactly.
No. Let's say there's certain things you can't say if you're not ballsy enough, right? I think the guys, and it's funny enough, I was speaking to someone the other day about Matt Rife. Everyone knows Matt Rife, and because of what he says or what he doesn't say, and in America they want to cancel him. But I think is if you bring a Gen Z audience with you, they're the audience that'll kill you, right? No. If you bring the Gen Z audience with you and that humor, you can say whatever the fuck you want. They will fight you. And that's what happened, a month ago with Matt Rife when he came with his special. He released a Netflix special talking about SA as a joke, and then had the lady in the crowd and the kid. Nothing happened, dude. He's still balling it, right? Selling out.
Yeah. The funny thing about those comedians, and I think the most controversy part of like Matt Rife is that he didn't used to be like that. That's why everybody's like, whoa, what happened? Like this guy just changed. Not like, for example, Shane Gillis. I don't know if you've seen that guy, Shane Gillis. He started off the bat, like he's been very reckless with his comedy and all that stuff. But New Zealand has an interesting concept of comedy where, obviously me being a brown person, I joke about a lot being the brown thing that happens here, you know? And if I have a very white crowd,
Yeah.
Sometimes people are like, I'll tell you my worst joke, and it's online, so I don't care. I've already posted it, so I can say it anywhere. My worst joke is that when I first came to New Zealand, I started hanging out a lot with the boys, with the Maoris and Polynesians and everything, and I learned a lot about them. I learned I did a hongi, I ate the hangi, I learned the haka. I started beating up my wife, and
that's good.
No, it's actually not true. I never learned the haka, and obviously I go like I think that's my worst joke.
No, that's great. I'm just thinking about when this episode's finished and my editor's going to take that exact piece again and we're going to repost it. I'm just waiting for that point. But anyway, keep going.
And the whole joke goes like, if I have a very white crowd, it's like, it's all right. Like, I make it worse.
Yeah.
I make it worse when it's a really white, and that's when they lose it and they just start laughing because they cannot help it. And I said, it's all right, guys. I'm brown enough to say those things, like I'm actually a Polynesian by trade. You know, I have gout and diabetes to prove it. And if I have a Polynesian crowd, everybody fucking loses their mind. They're like, yo, la! They love it.
Yeah.
But when it's a white crowd, you feel that, like, the tension. And I really like that challenge of breaking people in. I think that's one of the things that comedy is made for, that, breaking the
stereotypes.
And I tell everybody, it's like, it's funny. It's
a true funny.
Yeah.
It is so true. Look, whether you like or not, American Pie, the movie, when American Pie came out, and I'm going to get the year wrong, maybe 98, 99, somewhere around
Probably,
there.
Yeah, around there.
Okay. American Pie became one of the funniest comedies. Now, Guy, don't shoot me or anything, because I know you're a film producer and director and stuff, and you might not appreciate it. But it became one of the funniest comedies because what it was comedy on true shit. Everything that happened in American Pie actually happens to people.
Yep.
But no one will talk about it, right?
Exactly.
And finally it came out and that became funny. The Hangover. The first Hangover, obviously they did 2 or 3 movies and they pushed it further, but the first Hangover was true to the sense of what happens when dudes go and have a stag party and the sense of comedy. And that's where there's guys that are coming out and talking. Well, we spoke about off air about Russell Peters, right? He made it famous talking about the whole Indian, Asian, culture. I mean, one of his first lines was talking about that. Hey, if you get invited to a wedding and it's an Indian Indian marrying an Asian, you know how much rice we can have.
Yeah.
It was one of his first jokes he made 20 odd years ago. And originally everyone's like, whoa, and then everyone's like, fuck, that's actually funny because it's true.
It's true.
And that's when you're saying with your pieces now, like, There's a guy over in South Africa now, a colour guy in South Africa, and he's talking about all the cultural pieces. So again, you've got to be South African, or you've got to understand the South African culture to get the jokes. And everyone's loving it because he's speaking the truth of what we go through. Yeah. And it's so funny.
Yeah. And the best thing is that you have to dare.
Yeah.
I honestly, that's one of the things, because I was a little bit concerned because, and this is true, all of these jokes that I come up with when I joke about Polynesians and everything, they come from the boys.
Yep.
They're the ones who like, bro, you should say this, you should say this. And I'm like, should I? And I was like, try it. And I tried it and it works. And I'm like, okay. So I'll keep it. And in saying that, it's not, like I said, it's not trying to be offensive, but it's about talking about, what the perspective that I have. Mm-hmm. There is a Polynesian guy in the States. He, his last name is, I'm going to butcher it, Fanalicolau. His name is Paul Fanalicolau. And he's half Tongan, half Samoan. And he jokes, he's the opposite of me.
Yeah.
He jokes about how everybody thinks he's Mexican.
Okay. And he plays that card.
Exactly. Yeah. And he plays that. And then he even has one joke of like, I think Trump should hire a bunch of Polynesians to build the wall. And because it's never going to happen, they're not going to do it at all. And he has like he plays into that Polynesian being, because obviously, and this is a legit story. I went back to the States my first time, and because I was really into. Right now, I found myself. I know where I am.
Yep.
But at the time when I was working on my persona and my comedy and all that stuff, because I was joking a lot about the Polynesian stuff. I even had a man bun, so I had my band. I looked really Polynesian. Yeah. And I went to the States, and funny enough, a lot of people thought that I was Polynesian, and even my own people, they were like, even my cousins, they're like, this fool looking fucking, and especially I picked up a lot of the language, and accents and stuff like that. Even my little kid, my it's a funny situation that my kid, his English is Kiwi.
Yeah.
So last time we went to the States, we oh man, it was so fun. It was like one of the funniest stories. He wanted to go to the toilet. He said, "Daddy, pee pee," and I was like, "Oh hell, let's stop at the gas station." Well, gas station, not petrol station, right? So we stop at the petrol station. We get off. I grabbed my kid by the hand, and we started running towards to the store. And as soon as we enter, my kid he says to the lady, this is an African American lady. Yeah. He's like, "Excuse me, where's the toilet?" And the lady looks at us, and she's like, "Sir, we don't sell toilets here." And I'm like, "What do you mean you don't say? I don't want to buy one. I just want to I want to use one." And the lady looks at me and is like, "Sir, you're not supposed to use the toilets." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, and then I look around and I say, "Oh, washroom."
Yeah.
"Oh, yeah." And he gives me the key, and we go into the whole thing. Blah blah. We come out, and my kid comes out, and he was 4 at the time. He looks at her and dead into the eye. "It's not washroom, it's toilet." He says that, and I'm like, I was just laughing my ass off. And it's interesting, to see a Mexican kid with a Kiwi accent, especially in the States.
I've had it a few times when I've gone back to South Africa. So, like, I normally, some reason, I'll have like a 4 or 5 year gap before I go back, and it'll be family or wedding or reason. So there's a decent amount of time that I'm here, and obviously, to New Zealanders, I still sound South African, right? I still got actually my wife's a Kiwi and the rest of it. And I went back the one time. We went on a Saturday to like the local market in Cape Town. It's quite big, about the big market you walk through, and especially coming back, you want to get all the touristy stuff. And we're walking through these markets, and it's known that as a tourist, don't open your mouth, because the guy in the market store will hear your mouth.
They will charge you more.
And they will charge you more. So what will happen is, I taught my wife this in the very beginning. We go and she'll go look around, and she'll come to me and she'll go, I want that painting or whatever, that statue, whatever is over there. And then I'll go to the guy and I'm like, "Hey dude, all that, can I look at that and look at that item? What's the cost?" And, we barter and we negotiate everything. And I remember the one time, and the guy's looking at the whole time while I'm talking, but he's like looking me dead in the eyes, and we're chatting and stuff. And he looks at me, he goes, "I know you're South African, but you fucking weird, bro." He goes, "You sound weird, and your manner is," and he goes, "I'm totally confused at the moment." He goes, like, "What are you?" Like, I was like some fucking weird, like I'm the illegal alien coming into South Africa. Like, who the fuck wants to go into South Africa, right? Yeah. And he kept looking at me like this weird sort of situation. And that was one of the first times. And then the second time I went back was even worse, because my accent's even gone softer. Went to the market, and I grew up with Nelson Mandela. I grew up through all of that stuff, and I've got a painting of Nelson Mandela actually on my wall. It's, to me, some people might not agree, but to me, he's a hero, right? So I've got a close attraction. I know everything about him, and I'm standing there talking to this guy, and the guy brings up like the stone statues. He goes, "Oh, look, here's one of Nelson." And it's some fucking dude that ain't Nelson. And I looked at this guy, and I'm like, "You do fucking know I'm South African, right? I do actually know who this fucking guy is." And he goes, "Yeah, no, it ain't Nelson. That's just something." He goes, "I don't have it. I'll just see."
He's trying to make a sound.
He's trying to make a sound. I was like, "Dude, I know who he is," but because I didn't sound the part, he was trying to catch me as a schmuck. And look, it's a statue of Nelson Mandela. And I walked away, and I had to have a laugh of it, because obviously, I understand the culture and all the rest of it. But I was just like, "Dude, seriously?"
It's a funny situation, man. Even with my kid now, I've been hustling him to become more Mexican, because he became like really Kiwi.
Yeah.
And when we went to Mexico, I used to criticize all the people that got sick, because you still get sick from the air, from the water, from everything. You get old, and my kid got sick, so I'm like, "Oh shit, I have the weak genes." So we've been trying to teach him, how to eat spicy food and eat the. But one of the funny situations that happened in Mexico, we went to this bar, and obviously tacos is main core, the core. You know, you eat tacos everywhere.
Yeah.
And we went to this bar, and they were offering, like, you buy some drinks and they give you tacos. And we bought the drinks. They brought us the tacos for us to eat, and everybody. And my kid was there. And when the waiters came back with more tacos, my kid, she puts the plate in front of my kid, and he's like, "Do you have fish and chips?" No joke. He literally said that. The lady looks at me and is like, I don't speak English. She said that to me. And I'm like, he's asking if you have, I said that in Spanish. And she's like, "No, we don't sell that." Like, where what do you think is this place? Because that's a very rare dish in Mexico. Nobody eats that, you know. Only if you go to the coast, then they might have fish. But outside the coast, it's like fish and chips. Like, what the hell? And my kid was like, and I was like, he looks at me really sad, and he's like, "Daddy, I don't like this place. There's no fish and chips." And they're like, "Okay, change it. What do you want to eat?" And then he made it worse. He's like, "I want a pie." And I'm like, Jesus Christ. That's like,
and the pie you're thinking about.
We got to make you Mexican now. But yeah, it's an interesting situation being an immigrant. And even with my comedy, I joke about that, how hard it is to be an immigrant parent, because I have my daughter, she's born and raised in Mexico. Yeah. So she knows how to cut cocaine and sell it, and we have to train now the Kiwi, but the Kiwi's learning with meth, so it's a little bit complicated on that one. Well, we live in West Auckland.
Fuck it, bitch. I don't need to pay a show for you, dude. I'm just going to invite you over to the podcast every week, okay, guy, and we just just go, Ed, go.
I live in West Auckland. It's part of the life over there.
Yeah.
No,
and the Holden V8, right?
Well, the reason I live in West Auckland is I get homesick, and it's the only place I can, hear the helicopters and shootings. And
dude, I grew up. My first 10 years was in West Auckland, so I know everything that's out there.
I love it, man. Like, literally, people. When one of my comedy shows, that now it's become part of my gig. But one of the first times I said that joke, I lived in West Auckland because I miss Mexico. A lady screamed at me and she's like, "What about South Auckland?" And I literally, out of the top of the head, I said, "Oh, the only reason I go to South Auckland is for the shirts. It's the only place I can find shirts my size." And she fucking lost it, and now it's part of my. Now I include it on my jokes. But I think that's one of the things that I really loved about New Zealand, how diverse it is. Yeah. But in saying that, with the kids, my kids are learning about New Zealand, learning about all the cultures, but they also encourage them to dress up to bring their culture into the community. And I think that's one of the most amazing things that made me fall in love with the country, because if you go to Canada, Canada does it a little bit, but if you go, for us Mexicans, the States is obviously the main, place to go. In the States, they delete your identity. Like, they want to make you American. Yeah. You got to be American. And when I was a kid, I lived for a few months in the States. My dad had a job over there, and we went to work. He went to work there, and he took us with him. And my mom didn't like that at all. That I was getting brainwashed that America is the greatest country in the world, and that kind of behavior of forgetting who you are, and blah blah. So my mom said, "Nah, we're gonna go back to Mexico." But that's one of the things that I think New Zealand has an amazing way of pushing that part of.
It is. I'm an immigrant. New Zealand is a nation of immigrants, and it is an interesting one. I've spoken to a lot of people on the show that have all come to New Zealand and understand the privilege to come to New Zealand, right? You're coming from Mexico. I'm coming from South Africa. We're coming from third world countries. No disrespect to the countries, but that's what it is, right? From third world countries. And seeing people in New Zealand won't, and this is the crazy things, and sometimes I say to my kids, we took them very, very young to South Africa. They won't appreciate it, but my wife's Kiwi, and kids are born and raised here and everything else. And my daughter actually sounds American because we've had au pair, so she's got this weird thing as well, this weird accent thing. But we're like, when they stayed up our line, we're like, "Hey, we'll show them videos. Like, we'll take you to the squatter camps. We'll take you to the shit that I grew up with, and you understand what it means to, be privileged, or have privilege, not to be privileged, but have the opportunity." Like, I mean, I seriously lost my shit with my kids about a month, just first term. So beginning part of February, they at their school, all the kids, the entire school goes on school trip the same week. So as a parent, it's great. That means you don't have one kid this week and one kid next week. You don't have your kids for the whole week. So as parents, you're like, wow, whole week with no kids, everything else. Both kids were going to some little camping ground at a beach. One was here, one was there, all this sort of stuff. And we had been doing quite a lot of beach stuff going through summer and everything else. And then my daughter's like, oh, we've been at the beach so much lately. I don't really want to go for a school trip and sit at the beach again. And then my son I lost my shit because I turned around and said, excuse me, you having a complaint to have a week off from school to sit at the beach all day with your friends and you having a bitch about that? I'm like, there's not even in other side of the world, there's kids here that can't get to school, can't do all of this shit. You don't understand what you've actually got, right? And man, I went off, like seriously off. Coming from Africa, I was like, and you complaining about this?
I always tell that to everybody. It's like, especially Mexico became very famous because of the cartels and all those movies on Netflix and TV shows and everything. So I always get the typical comment from youngsters that they like, oh man, I cannot wait for New Zealand to become like Mexico. And I'm like, bro,
no, you don't.
You have no idea. I was like, there's a reason why I'm here, bro. Like if I could and my country was a good country, I would be there. You know, trust me, 100%. And saying that with the kids, it's a funny thing because now I include it on my like I said, everything goes into my comedy because it's something that it's related to me. I said that I became Trump in my family now because every time my kids misbehave, I tell them I'm going to send them back to Mexico. Ironically enough, my daughter had to stay this time that we went because her mom didn't let her come back to New Zealand. So she stayed in Mexico, and we were having a conversation the other day, and she was like, "Dad, you were not joking." And I'm like, "Yeah, I told you, didn't I? I told you." Like, Mexico is it's amazing to travel. It's beautiful. It's touristic. It's amazing. But if you live outside of that touristic areas, it's a shithole. You know, it's a lot of bad things happening. So it's I always tell everybody, be grateful for what you have in this country because New Zealand is just amazing.
And it is true. You know, I mean, as New Zealand going through struggles the last few years and and not saying that there's not really struggles and stuff like that, but yeah, I think if we can, immigrant nations, the New Zealand nation, and everyone can just, you know, almost enjoy what we have. Yeah. It still fucking sucks. Don't get me wrong. You know, cost of living, all that other boring shit we don't really want to be talking on this show, but you know, if we just let it go, enjoy the life, enjoy the most amount of freedom you can have anywhere in the world at the moment, right? And the perks and the luxuries and all of that stuff. It's just so much better.
Even saying that, I always say is like, if you can take your kids to school without, you know, walking. My daughter used to walk to her primary school, 2 blocks, just no problem. I would never think that something would happen to her. Yeah. She was take him to the park. You know, all of those little things. When they disappeared, you're like, holy shit! Like you never realize how important they were. You know.
Yeah, I mean, before, I want to come back onto something else, but one more thing. Like, on that point is one of the trips we went to South Africa, and I explained to people how crazy this is. So we went back to South Africa once over Christmas period, and with the exchange rate, once you're there, things are really cheap, right? So we were able to rent a beach house here's the house, the road, there's the beach, quite a big place. We had a whole lot of family over, right? And because of the exchange rate, it cost me less than to rent a batch in Northland, for example. So that's why we went and did it. But this is where it got crazy. So you have this big beach house that's got concrete walls around with a security fence, barbed wire around it, right? In a lush, you fully respect this. Yeah. Drive up to the house. As I drive up to the house, I push the button, let the gate open. I stand there. As the gate, I don't move till the whole gate's open. I then drive in, stay in the car with the family. Yeah. I push the button. I let the gate close. Once the gate is only then closed, then I push the button to let the garage open. Garage opens. Then I drive in. I stay in the car. I push the button, let the garage close. And only once the garage is closed, then I get out the car. Yeah. Now, this is not all the times and this is not all the situations, but this is something like Imagine taking someone from New Zealand that just has and you go and do those like 6 or 8 steps just to pull into your house to get out on a very nice house in a very nice location. Yep. And they go like, what are you doing?
Yep.
That's how different it is, right?
It's crazy. Like I always tell everybody, is like, I could tell you stories that will make you depressed in less than a minute just because of the shit that happens. Yeah. And the sad part is that for us in Mexico, and I'm pretty sure you have the same situation in South Africa, it gets normalized. That's what I didn't like. And that's what scared me, because I realized how normal things were becoming for me. Like there's even, I think there's a joke by George Lopez. He says that I hate missing parties because last time I didn't go to a party, someone got shot and I missed it. You know, and it's true. Yeah. It sounded so normal, and you're like, damn, that shouldn't be normal. Like that's yeah.
I've got a story I've spoken about before on many times on the show before, and my mom hates it when I speak about the story because it involved her in a situation. So and you're talking about normalization, right? And situation. So back in South Africa, my mom ran one of the very large security companies that ran security guards and cash in transit. So you see all those money trucks that they try to blow up. That's the shit that she used to run. So one Friday night, my mom gets call out. One of the truck drivers was drunk, drove into some guy's sports car. So they and my dad had been out, but my dad was still in his 30s doing sport. I think he was out with the guys and he's been drinking stuff, so he was no-go. So I was about 10 years old. Mom says, okay, Lawrence, jump in the car. We've got to go over to this van and we've got to sort out the situation because she's running this entire district for the company. So we pull up there. There's the van smash into this guy's sports car. The sports car owner's crying in the corner because his baby's hurt, his car's hurt. The guy that's driving the van is drunk in the corner, and then they've got to get another van in to shift this money. Now this van is stocked, loaded with cash, right? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s. Without even thinking a blink of an eye, when the new van comes up, the security guard has it was an AK-47 or an AR-15 on him. My mom takes it from this guy, gives it to me as a 10-year-old, right? Says, stand here and make sure no one comes near to us while we're moving this money.
Sounds about right.
Right? For many years, it was one of the coolest stories I ever had as a kid, right? As a moment. But as a parent now,
you're like, shit.
Yeah. And when I've told the story and my mom keeps hearing it, she cringes at how she just did that. She's like, cool, Lawrence, stand there. And I'm standing with a automatic rifle. Never, I'd been taught how to shoot already, and it was just stand there, make sure no one comes near us. And that's the normalization of how crazy some of the culture is, right?
Yep. And it's sad because it shouldn't.
Yeah.
It shouldn't. Especially like you said, now that when you're a kid, young or whatever, you don't care, you don't pay attention to those things until you grow up. You're like, oh shit, those things were like. Now I remember. I honestly, I'm very lucky to be alive. Yeah. Like just to that point, like I'm very lucky to be alive with all the things that we went through and that and that I lived in Mexico. That you don't measure the danger. You just don't care, So and it's a crazy situation to see the difference of life. A friend of mine was telling me the other day, I said, like, bro, you're too far. You should come back to Mexico, blah, blah. And we miss you over here and this and that. And I tell him the problem is that you get addicted to the peace.
Yeah.
Last time I went to Mexico, I think it was, we went for 2 months to Mexico. I was probably my second week and I was just like, I want to go back home. I forgot how it was like to be looking at behind you all the time, constantly. I forgot about that feeling. It was scary.
There's a reason why I sat on this side of the table.
Holding my kids, man. Holding my kids, my kids all the time. And we had to train our 2 kids, because my daughter, she already knew a little bit by growing up in Mexico. But with the Kiwi one, we had to, like, wherever we go, you don't let go. Yeah. Like, you stay, and he was like, okay, daddy. He was like,
and doesn't understand why, right?
Nope.
And this is the same reason why we haven't gone back as much with my kids other than being the other side of the world as well, because New Zealand's on the
and it's expensive.
It's
man.
expensive, dude.
After COVID, the prices of the airplanes just went through the roof, man. Oh. We had to go. Like I said, 2 years ago, it was we had some ceremonies and stuff that we needed to attend and everything. And this is no joke, man. Obviously, we went during Christmas periods, which makes it way more expensive. But 2 adults, 2 kids, we spent like 15 grand.
I know, crazy. Yeah. Just dude, there's like 3 weeks all expenses in Fiji, right? Not even easily. Yeah. So that's it, because we got friends over in South Africa, and they're like, same, like every time on the cheap, I can get to South Africa for my family of 4 for about just over 10 grand on the cheap, on cheap ticket. I'm like, you know what I can do in 10 grand on this side of the world in the islands?
Yeah.
You know how long I can go for? And that 10 just gets me there. That's not the expense money once I'm there.
Don't you see it ironically that you get out of your country to go to another country to save to go back to your country? Yeah. I found it so ironically. I was like, man, I'm working to go back to my country. Like, this doesn't. Yeah,
you got next time you got to say you saving money to go back to Mexico, right? That's you got to talk about. Where did you think you'll grow up and go? I want to save money to come back to Mexico.
Retire over there. We're one of those Americans that is gentrifying Mexico. I'm just gonna go buy it and get some land over there.
Anyway, look at one of the questions I want to ask you as a comedian, and the rest of it is, first one is your Mount Rushmore of comedians, your 4 comedians that you have got on a pillar that you think is the best for you or most inspired.
Well, obviously, number 1 is Fluffy.
Yep.
I think that's a pretty obvious one. I've always talked about him, and he's been it's just such an inspiration, because I think making comedy is hard. Mm-hmm. Making clean comedy is harder.
Yeah.
And becoming famous on clean comedy is
he's one of the
impossible.
Best. He's one of the
impossible. I literally know all his jokes. I've seen all his videos, all his specials when he started and everything. And man, what he has accomplished is just like, coming from two immigrant parents from Mexico, growing up in the States with no opportunities, making it that far. I'm like, God,
his degrees of fatness was one of the best jokes I've ever heard.
It's everything that he said. And the problem is that it's clean. Yep. So you can put your kids to listen to him, and you're not going to be worried of him saying something bad. Yep. It's one of the things that the most, like, because obviously a lot of comedians, even myself, we relied on the bad words, on the naughty comments, on the blah blah. So it makes it really hard on that scale. So I would say number 1, Fluffy. Number 2, Dave Chappelle.
Oh yeah,
Dave Chappelle is I think what everybody calls the GOAT.
Yeah.
Number 3, and this is a very recent one that shocked me. Shane Gillis, I think he is, and not just because he's a comedian, he's also a skit creator. And me doing skits and comedy at the same, I can relate to what he's doing. And I'm just impressed that he has the amount of knowledge to kind of like make enough comedy for himself, but also skits. And that's a challenge, bro, where you don't want to, because I have a lot of jokes that are really good jokes. And I know that if I transform it into skits, they're going to be really good skits. Yeah. But then I'm going to kill it on my joke. So I don't want to, surpass to that situation. So I think he's doing pretty amazing. And number 4, bro, and this is a guy that opened up his doors to me, and it shocked me. So Fluffy has a group of friend comedians when he started. And he was Martin and Felipe. So Martin is his opening act. Martin Moreno. He's been always with Fluffy. Felipe Esparza became a comedian that went into adult kind of comedy. So it kind of clashed with what Fluffy wanted to achieve. So he said, you know what? We're going to kind of like go our separate ways. We're still bros, but, we cannot work together because
This doesn't work.
Yeah. Fluffy was Nickelodeon, doing all this for kids stuff, shows and that stuff. And Felipe was talking about weed and
like Kevin Hart.
And he was going into the adult topic. But in saying that, when I started reaching out, when I created my podcast, I literally emailed everybody, bro.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you're related to that. I message, email. Obviously, no one replied. He replied.
Yep.
He replied, and he was like, "Yeah, man, let's hook it up. Let's link it up." We did the whole podcast, and then he has his own podcast, which is called "What's Up, Fool," and he's had all the comedians that you can think of. Like, he has legends in his podcast as well. And he said, "Do you want to jump in?" And I'm like, "I'm nobody." Like, I literally at that point, my content wasn't doing. I don't think I was doing even content. I was just an open mic comedian kind of type. I wasn't doing anything important, and I was just like, "Sure, of course." And he had me on his podcast, and I think he's the first comedian that has 2 Netflix special out at the same time. One in English and one in Spanish.
Oh, wow.
So I think that's one of the things that I aspire to do. I wanna do that. I wanna get my comedy in English and get my comedy in Spanish, push it out.
Yeah.
And so I think those 4 guys are kind of like the what I'm looking up to.
Yeah, it's amazing. Talking about the Netflix special, I know you've got a vlog series at the moment that you're pretty much releasing videos till Netflix signs you up. How's that going?
It's interesting, man. I was brainstorming, and this was the funny thing is, it came out from all the boys. It was Oos, H Puppy, and myself. We were having a chat, and I told him, I said, "You know what? Because TikTok at the time, TikTok has been having a lot of problems right now with the whole music being deleted, and now that the States wants to, and all that stuff. So TikTok right now, it's in a very, you can still get a lot of followers there, but it's, I don't know, it's like, I don't think it's dying, but it's kind of like got stuck into like something. I don't know, it's weird. So I was chatting with him, and I said, I think the only social media that pays in New Zealand is YouTube.
Correct.
Instagram does some, like, you get some stuff from there, but that's not an actual pay.
No, it's
YouTube is the only one that because a lot of people think that, bro, you must be banking it with those amount of followers on TikTok.
I spoke to the guys again. I was at Follow Dojo on the weekend speaking to all those boys. That's all part of the content, and I'm like, people have this perception that you're balling it. Like 6-figure balling if you're a content creator in New Zealand. And I'm like, best case, the best dudes from content purely might be like 40 or 50K a year. At
the most.
Yeah. Best case for the top dudes.
Yeah.
The money comes from TV ads, all the other stuff. But from your content itself, dude, you ain't getting rich off the content.
Nah, man. And the amount of work that you need to put into it, it's insane. That's one of the things that shocked me a lot. Because I was still debating what to do, because obviously the reason I started doing content was because COVID happened.
Yeah.
And there's this comedian, his name is Joe Damon. He's doing pretty good at the moment. He's right now at the Melbourne Festival. And I remember we started doing comedy kind of like, not at the same time, but he was already doing a few things and everything. And we met up in a lot of open mics while we were hustling, trying to get a spot and jump on the stage and practice. And I remember seeing him, and he was great. I was like, man, this he's good. And we link up and we sent a few messages and we started chatting. And then COVID happened, and I saw one of his videos that he's like,
he went viral for that whole gym scene, right? That everyone's having sex at the gym.
Yeah,
that's one. That's one of the clips that blew up.
But during COVID, he did phone calls with Jacinda. You know how Jacinda would do the lives?
Yeah.
So he would record them and cut them while he was having like a conversation with her.
That's cool.
And beautiful. It was so funny. He was like genuinely really funny, because
good storyline. Yeah.
He would joke. Obviously, he being a Maori Fijian, he would joke about like she being the auntie, that kind of stuff, and And he blew up, and I messaged him and I said, bro, like, fuck, like that's amazing, bro. Because then when COVID started slowing down, he got to sell out the Sky City.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, like, bro, we were doing just a year ago. We were hustling to get a spot on a bar, bro, with 3 people in the bar plus the comedians, So like, what the hell? And he was like, nah, man, do social media, bro.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, I'm gonna do it. And I started posting on TikTok, and I started doing. No, I think the 100 views that I was getting was probably me repeating the video just to check if I had any likes or something, And I started getting disappointed, bro. I was like, nah, man, probably this is not for me. I was working still full time at the construction site, so my main work was I was working for Fletcher's, and I was full on with my job and everything. I got lucky to be invited to a new project, and it's called Eastern Busway, and Pacuranga, and I went there, and we were working from home, so it was a little bit tricky with the whole. I didn't like working from home. I was doing a lot of paperwork. I was constantly. I don't know. It didn't feel. This is what I want to do. And I remember saying to myself, "It's like I need to push." This content thing, like I need to find something, but what? And while I was doing I was scrolling through TikTok, and I saw a video of a guy asking about your country.
Yeah,
it's like a famous TV host, and he's like, "Tell me about your country," and he starts asking questions, and I said, "Oh, I'm gonna duet that video." So I duetted it, and I started answering the questions. But normally, like I would talk. And one of the questions that he asked is like, so do you have a president, monarchy? What kind of government do you have? And I said, in Mexico, we get a cartel and a president. I said that. And then at the very end, the last question, I was like, if I go to your country, what do you recommend me to do? And I said, cocaine. and the video blew up. Yeah. It went, got like 1 million views, and everybody was like, holy shit, a Mexican in New Zealand? And they started like asking me questions, what's a Mexican doing in New Zealand? And I started replying. And then from, I think I had like 200 followers, went to 1,000, and then to 10,000, and then to 20, 30, 40, and it started growing up a lot. And I was just like, okay, wow. But I've always admired how, I don't know if you remember Vine, but all the Viners now are incredibly successful in their own careers, like Logan Paul, all those guys. Some people even forget they were Viners,
look at Vine. I think it's because they got to understand content. So content creation's blown up big. Like I had JP Robinson on the show recently, and I think he's going to become one of the biggest content creators in New Zealand over the next couple of years, right? He's really great at what he's doing. But it's understanding there's a difference from taking a camera, take my phone, and saying a joke. Like, you're naturally funny, so I'm not. So I go and stand there, try to do a joke, and it fucking falls flat on its face, and everyone's just like, dude, what's this, like, South African dude in New Zealand trying to be funny, right? But there's way more to it. We spoke about off air, like, do you guys have story writers, right? There's some of the stuff that actually, from content's not just going, okay, it's cool, it's actually planning it, what's the storyboard, what's the direction, what's the filming, what's the rest of it. I mean, I know what's quite cool on some of your content, you release the bloopers, right? Yeah. And I know you just recently released the blooper from the video you spoke about when you go to the wrong AA group. Yeah, that's the dude. That was a brilliant skit. With your erectile problems.
You know what's that was really funny because the boys didn't know what I was gonna say.
Oh, didn't they?
No,
it was so good.
It was like improvised on the spot.
Because if you watch the bloopers, go watch on Edd's profile, and it's on your YouTube, right? YouTube, the bloopers. Yeah. So you sit in, and you got Jackie on the left, and I can't remember who was on the far left.
It's West Guide or Western Guide or everybody call Western Guide. It's Jackie
and then
Reagan.
Right, yeah. And as soon as you sit and do that, you can see him not realize it, and he actually moves off camera, and you can feel that he's shaking likely in the corner. But I'm not going to say. So you got to go and find that on Edd's profile about this the wrong AA group.
I think the best thing is that one of the things that made me realize, because I didn't know about structure.
Yeah,
this comes from Terrell.
Yeah.
Terrell Taffa, he is, in my opinion, one of the most amazing content creators I've worked with, because he has this method of, he writes everything.
Yeah.
So he's like, that's why he's so successful, because he knows what he's doing. And I remember the first time, he was the first content creator that contacted me.
Oh, yeah.
Because I literally, same, when I started getting, I think I had maybe 30,000 followers on TikTok. I started messaging everybody. I was like, I need to
collab,
yeah. And the main thing for me was that I was running out of ideas as well, so I didn't know what to do. I was like, man, I need to talk to someone. I need to let them know, or was I'll contact. And Terrell was the first one that said, yeah, man, I'll do some videos with you. And I'm like, oh, perfect, awesome. And that was it. And then out of a week later, he messaged me and says, like, what are you doing on Wednesday? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. What do you want me to do? I'm
there.
I'll ask for the day off. I'll go. And I said, oh man, I'll meet you this place. And he invited me to do a video on his YouTube. He invited, I don't know if you've seen her. Her name is Nella. I think it's Nella Nisler. She's like a champion of a fast food eater.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So she eats really fast and she's like super skinny, man. And we had a competition against her. Obviously, we lost, and the whole video was with him. But we did it like in a studio, like this one right here. You're like, I got up and I'm like, man, this is a studio. Like, he had a camera guy, and everybody was just like,
it's like Mr. Beast, right?
Yeah, I was just like, what am I gotten myself into? And he like, okay, we're gonna do a take where you come in, and we're gonna record you, and then this and that, and try to look over there. Don't look at the camera, and I'm just like, shit, man. Like, I thought, I remember he's like, okay, let's do a video with you. And I pull up my phone and I had a Samsung. And I was like, oh, you don't have an iPhone? And I was like, does that matter? I was like, I felt poor in 4 levels at the same time. I was like, does that matter? And he's like, yeah, man, the quality of the camera and blah, blah. And he started he gave me a whole, you need to do this.
Yeah.
If you want to really.
That sounds like a skit.
If you really, that's actually sounds like a skit. And he gave me the whole thing, and I was like, okay, well, thank you. And then we parted ways. Yeah. He still contacted me a few times, and blah, blah. And then I went to Mexico, and it's so funny, man. That's why one of the things I always talk about, social media, it's weird, man, because you can do, sometimes we do videos where it takes us 3 hours to do a 15-second video.
Yeah.
3 hours to do a 15, you have no idea how much editing, change clothes, do this or that, and record here and put the camera over there, put it over there, move it over there, do all this stuff. And then you get 1,000 views. Damn it. It's so frustrating. And my most viewed video, it's on TikTok, and it has 8 million views. And it's me and my kid eating chips.
Yeah. It makes no fucking sense, right? It makes no sense.
It was so funny, man. I remember because it was a trend video. It was not even my original idea. It was just everybody was doing. It's a trendy thing.
Did you want to throw your cell phone when you saw that?
Oh man, I was. It was so weird, man. Because I recorded the video, and I told my son, just eat. Yeah. He didn't even have to act. He was just eating. We were just eating. And the whole concept is that you show your account balance, and you're poor, and you're spending too much money, and blah blah. And I went to sleep. Then woke up, and it had 2 million views, and I'm like, what? I was like, what the hell? And then in the next span of a week, it went to 5, and then now it's on 8, and it's just like, it was first take video. I didn't do anything. It was literally the quality of the camera and shit. Yeah. So I still had a Samsung at the same time. So it was just like, and then now after that video, I came back to New Zealand. And I said, you know what? This construction thing, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I want to see if I can actually make it something. Yeah. Because I was talking to other content creators in Mexico that they're content creators, but they're not getting any follows. Yeah. And they told me, man, whatever you're doing, it's amazing. You should not. You have no idea how hard it is to get it. Now, I have an idea, bro. I've been posting for 2 years, and this is the first time that this thing is getting picked up. And I said, you know what? fuck it. I'm going to start messaging again everybody. I'm going to try to get. And the first one I sent message was to Us.
Yeah.
And it clicked. Like it was our personalities. I'm very he's a really funny guy.
Yeah.
But he's the funny, quiet guy, which is really interesting. And I'm a loud, funny guy. So our personality kind of like clicked straight away. And the first day we met, we did 5 videos. It was like boom, boom, boom. We did it in like a span of like, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And we did 5 videos. And we were like, oh. And we posted it. And yeah, it went with really viral on social media. And that's when everybody, I think, Torel and Uz started realizing, oh shit, we need to collaborate. Start collaborating, and that's when everybody started like pulling in and starting working out together. And then
the mafia, the New Zealand mafia, New Zealand mafia, right?
And then Uz just blew up completely, man. And now he's I tell him, it's like, bro, you have no idea how famous you are. Like I have people from Mexico telling me, yo, I saw you in one of those videos with him, with this guy. And I cannot believe you met this guy. And I'm like, use it to your advantage.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's content creation. I always tell everybody, if you really want to do it, if you're interested in doing it, you got to commit.
Yep.
You really have to commit. For me, I quit my job. So right now I'm poor.
Yeah. You're Mexican. So you're Mexican?
Yeah. But I'm back to Mexico, man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm back to Mexico. Sadly, I'm immigrant brown, so I don't get any benefits. That's a cheeky joke. But the whole kind of concept is that I said, if I keep working, I'm not gonna fully go into this. And
there's a famous old saying that if you wanna take the island, you burn the boats.
Yeah.
So if you want to do it, you've got to give yourself no option to go back.
Yeah.
And again, bringing him up, JP spoke, but one thing he said about his content creation and Mai Tai and all the rest of it, he was like, one piece he said, he just made the decision to go all in.
Yeah.
And it sucks for the first period, like you said, you're a poor man now because you gave up a day job. But once it turns, if you look at all the guys, look at Us, what he's done in 2 years, right? He's gone from small nothing to one of the biggest content creators. He was at the TikTok Awards top 3 creators in Australasia or something.
Yeah.
I think he lost out in the final. I mean, just one of the biggest creators in the world, and not just him and everyone else. And every day I'm seeing a new person from New Zealand, and I'm like, God damn it, why didn't God give me sense of humor or comedy so I can write this shit? Because I'm watching this shit and it's funny, but only once I've seen it, I go, that's fucking funny. But now I can't do it because you've done it.
Yeah.
Right. And I can do it if someone in America or in Mexico or in South Africa's done it, but I can't do it if you go and do a video and I've seen you and I do another video, the exact same video. It's like me going to Ed, like, fuck you, dude. Your content doesn't mean it. I'm going to copy you.
Believe it or not, there's people that they do that, bro. There's
the industry, but I've got too much respect in my own country to go, hey, I'm going to copy you or Us or Tarao or so that stuff. That's just looking for shit because I'll get squashed. I'll just get squashed. But anyway, Ed, as we're coming up to the end of today's show, we've already been going for an hour. Is there your stand-up comedy? That's your way you're going, right? Have you got anything in the pipelines? Anything popping up next handful of months, or where can we see you next?
Yeah, I'm organizing myself because I want to bring my comedy. I think the problem with social content is because it absorbed everything. I kind of like let stand-up die a little bit. So I've been doing just like presenting myself at the classic, any paid gig, like they call me, hey, can you jump on the gig, and blah blah. I'm writing for 7 days. I'm one of the spec writers for 7 days. So it's really fun to do that. But I want to go back into stand up, because that's like obviously the road to Netflix, which is the whole blog that I'm doing. It's about being on stage, So I think between what's April, so I said, because tomorrow's my birthday, I said after my birthday, I'm going to start setting up gigs, at least, because I want to go to Tauranga Wellington, I've done a lot of gigs in Wellington, and every time I go, it's just amazing, man. Like, people are like, they pull up. So I want to go to Hamilton. I want to go to Tauranga. I want to go. Waiheke is a funny one, man. Waiheke, I got invited. The first gig I did in Waiheke was in Spanish. I didn't know that Waiheke. Yeah, man, it's exactly like that. Waiheke is full of Argentinians, right?
Oh, yes.
Full of Argentinians, and I got hired by a guy. He said, "Hey, how much do you charge for a show?" And blah blah. And we did the whole talk, and then he told me, "I'll come to Waiheke," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then he said, "You need to take a boat." I've never been to Waiheke. 7 years in New Zealand, never been to Waiheke. So I was just like, he's like, "You need to take a boat for it," and I'm like, "A boat? Do I need to bring my passport or shit?" Or what? He's like, he started laughing. He's like, no, just go to Brita Mart and take the ferry and everything. And say, "Oh, okay." So I went, and it was 300 people, bro.
Yeah.
300 people
in Spanish.
In Spanish with Argentinians. The good thing is that all Latin Americans hate Chileans. So
you just ripped them off.
We just ripped off. And the Argentinians were like, yes! They loved me because I was shitting on Chileans. Same when I have a gig with Chileans, I joke about Argentinians. And,
you just reverse it.
Yeah. Mexicans are kind of like the overlords of Latin America, so we kind of like just shit on everybody. But that's what it's coming. So hopefully, I always tell everybody, pay attention to my Instagram. That's where I'm gonna be posting all my gigs. I want to do. I said at least by June I should have already a tour set up, just mainly in the North Island. I want to see if I can manage to go to South Island as well. I want to go back to Brisbane.
Yep.
I did a show. It's called Sit Down Comedy Club in Brisbane. It's the main comedy club, and oh man, it was beautiful. I was really nervous if my comedy was going to work in Australia, but turns out they're more racist than New Zealanders, so it was perfect. They loved it. They really loved my comedy over there. So hopefully, I always tell everybody the best way to support an artist is go to their shows. You know, it doesn't hurt to give a like and share, but also, you know, if they have something where you can actually support them like that, just show up.
Yeah, totally.
Know? So I'm trying. Right now, because you had Tox Fale and your show, we're filming. This is my baby. I think next month. Next month. So mid May, I'm gonna post weekend because I've already started posting photos and everything. We created a character which his name is Chicharrón, and pork belly in Spanish, which is me being a wrestler.
Oh yeah.
And Tox Fale is my trainer. He's my coach. And the first guy that I fought was Western, which is a massive Samoan, you know, dude. And then the second guy that I'm fighting is Jackie.
Yeah.
So it's a really comical Nacho Libre kind of type situation.
Can we maybe ask for Barry Burrito to come out of semi-retirement? You know that there's a wrestler here called Barry Burrito.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes,
nice.
And he does with the full mask. So maybe
there's a comedian in Wellington. His name is El Jaguar, and he has his whole mask and everything. He's Canadian, but I think his mom was Mexican or something like that. But yeah, man, we're filming. We're filming actually at the dojo.
Yeah, dojo.
That's where we're filming all the whole thing, and I'm just finishing editing the whole video, and we're gonna post it on YouTube. So
awesome.
Hopefully, people gets to have a good laugh. The main thing is that. It's always funny to see a fat guy struggle. Yeah. So,
oh, look, you're gonna play it.
It is what it is. You know?
Here's what God gave you, right?
No, one of the most viral videos that came out, actually, that idea was born, was me trying to get on the ring
with Tyler.
Yeah,
dude, that is so funny.
So I said, man, this is pure gold. Because if we actually make something. Everybody knows wrestling. Yeah. Everybody likes wrestling. Yeah. And I funny enough, Nacho Libre wasn't a hit in Mexico, so we didn't I think I've never seen the whole movie like in full. So, but I never realized that Nacho Libre outside of Mexico,
is massive.
Like
it's a cult.
I was like, wow. Everybody's like, even I was laughing because Tox was like even quoting the movie and shit. And I'm like, the fuck? Like, how famous is this movie?
It's a total cult following on Nacho Libre, bro.
I was very surprised. And so I said, you know what? Maybe we hit gold with this one. And the main idea is to create a series, see if we can get either TVNZ. Obviously, the dream will be Netflix to kind of like pull us into, because I'm the one who's writing the script, directing it, editing, and the whole. Well, there's no money, there's no budget, so I'm blessed enough that Tox is allowing like us to film in his place and giving us his time, and we even use his voice on the ring, and there's a scene where you see all the whole crowd, and he got all the students to come in to
act as the crowd.
But it's a crowd, so it was really fun. So that's coming mid May. It's already on Instagram. There's a few photos and a few videos about Chicharron. So pork belly. I think that's everybody they lost their mind. And the funny thing is that I was using the mask. Jarritos, the drink, has a wrestler as his like mascot. And I did a video for Jarritos, just laughing and drinking Jarritos. And Jarritos told me, he's like, yo, we're going to send you some goodies. And they sent me a box of drinks and some jackets and stuff like that. And they sent me the mask of the whole thing. And I wear it for the first episode. And then I got a message from the actual mascot, and it's like, bro, I don't think you're allowed to use the mascot. So now we include that. I told him, hey, do you want to, because everybody, the whole concept is that everybody hates me because I shouldn't be a wrestler, right? The whole thing is that I'm making wrestling to look silly, and everybody's like angry at me because I'm disrespecting wrestling. But I really want to be a wrestler, but I'm just don't have the physique for it, right? Unless I could be Rikishi, but that's out of the question. So long story short, he agreed, and he's sending me a video of him telling me, take off the mask and blah.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm gonna kill you, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. So that the
storyline works.
The storyline works and everything. So fingers crossed. Toxval is really excited about it. So we're hoping, and we're getting all the boys included as well and involved. So that's actually something that I said, everybody, I tell, and this is one of I live by that, and I tell, if one of us makes it, we all make it. You know, that's the whole deal. I tell them, if I manage to get Netflix to pull my comedy, and I'm going to bring the guys with me. That's the same as,
what was it, Eminem and his original crew? I haven't heard them from ages.
Yeah, D12.
D12, right? D12, and that was the rule that he made, they all made. Like, if one of them came up, they had to push the other one. And then obviously Eminem did the D12 mix that blew those guys up. And then, I mean, they went decent way, but it never got that big. But there was the same rule. It all comes up, right?
I said, right now with the whole world being so global, and there's a lot of competition for content, there's a lot of competition for stuff. And right now, I think with the situation, how life is going, I would say people always need a laugh. Always need a laugh. And I think that's what made me addicted to making people laugh, because you could see that they forget about everything. Like for the last, if they're laughing for 5 seconds, you see that everything's gone. Like they're not thinking about anything else, just laughing on the situation that just occurred. So I think, hopefully, fingers crossed, this whole thing blows up and we can make a living out of it, and you know, keep hustling it and doing this work.
That's awesome, man. Ed, thanks so much for all of that, man. I can't wait to see that. I'm excited. Like I said, I've seen some of your content already. It is hilarious and brilliant. I don't know where you guys get the shit. I'm totally jealous on the sense of humor on that one. Yes, the one of you trying to climb in the ring with Tyler, brilliant. I you used a stepping stool to try and get in. That was fuck. I was pissing myself laughing watching it. So everyone else to watch it. But look, as we end off today, so obviously I'll throw up all your socials as where everyone else can find you and the rest of it and all of the rest. But you know, if you, as always at the end of the podcast, if there's something that resonated with you today, something that Ed had to say, funny shit that had to be said today. Have a laugh, have a sense of humor. We're both trying to do a place in the world where we just have a laugh, just enjoy and remember, and don't take things so seriously. Like I said in my shows, I never say, subscribe and share and follow, all that stuff. I don't care. I care about us having a good time. I care about us trying to pick up something that's cool and nice for what we're trying to do out there. And hopefully you enjoy today's Edd's message. Go and follow me on the socials, and let's help blow up his comedy career. And I can once say I knew him. I sat on the other side of the table, right? He was this close to me at one stage when he becomes famous, him and Fluffy. When Fluffy opens for Edd, right?
Oh,
right. Lady, just remember this.
He'll open the door.
Just remember this. Just one funny thing. Just remember this. Lady Gaga used to open for the Pussycat Dolls. Just remember that. So when Fluffy opens for Edd, we'll come back to this point, but I'll drop that in there. But anyway, thanks to everyone coming over to the podcast. Thanks so much, Edd. And as always, hope to see you again.